Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour podcast. I am Kyle Anthony, your host for today. We are talking UFC Vegas 105, headlined by Lerone Murphy and Josh Emmett. We're going to be breaking down 4 plays here on the show today. And listen, we are coming off a fantastic weekend. Last weekend, cashing on our max bet play at UFC Mexico on Manuel Torres. El Loco getting the job done. KO round 1, easy peasy 5% winner. And this weekend, which that was a plus 100, we got a plus number again next to our top play, our 4-unit play. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. Already have that play up for clients. We'll be adding more as we get closer to fight night. So excited about it. We got an awesome card next weekend, big pay-per-view. So back-to-back 2 big weekends incoming. So with that being said, let's dive into the main event of the evening between Lerone Murphy and Josh Emmett. Now, this one here, you've got Lerone, big favorite, minus 340 on the comeback. You've got Josh Emmett plus 270. Now, this line opened up minus 265 for Murphy, and we have seen money consistently come in on him. Now, I get it. I get it. Murphy, 15-0. That O always looks good to bettors. 15-0 has looked good. Good technical striking at range, well-rounded. He can lean on his wrestling when he needs to, and he's facing a 40-year-old in Josh Emmett, where, he's 40. Last time he fought was December of 2023, where he knocked out Bryce Mitchell, which, was a pretty insane knockout. But, with that being said, with the age difference and the 15-0, I still think this line's wide, and I do think that the biggest reason for me why I think this line is wide is the nuclear option that Josh Emmett has in his hands. He is a guy with massive, massive power. And the biggest reason is because it's fight-changing power. It's the type of power where, sure, yes, it can knock a guy out at any moment. He has that ability. We've seen him do it with one punch. But also the fact of just changing rounds. There's spots where he can be out volumed, he can be out, struck, and then all of a sudden he lands one big shot, rocks the guy, drops the guy, and he ends up getting that round. And I think that's something that can particularly happen in this fight because we have seen that he has that ability. Josh Emmett has an insane knockout rate out of 14 UFC fights. He's got 12 knockdowns. That is massively impressive overall, including some brutal knockout victories as well. And plus the fact that this is going to be in the Apex cage. And I think that really helps Josh Emmett cutting distance, where you've got Lerone who wants to work in space, utilize some of his high-level striking, work at range, steer clear of the danger. And I think that the smaller cage allows Josh Emmett to move forward comfortably, throw those big shots, crash the pocket. And we've seen Lerone, he was dropped in his last fight. He's been rocked multiple times. And I think one shot over a 5-round fight, I think Josh Emmett has the ability to probably land something like that. This is the hardest hitter by far that Lerone has had to face. Plus, when Lerone is pressured, he likes to wrestle. And I think that also may not be as available as it has in past fights where he's able to level change. You got Josh Emmett, who does have some solid wrestling. I think if he moves forward and Lerone can't get this fight to the ground, he's stuck, in a phone booth fight, throwing big shots with a power puncher. So for me in this spot here, I think it's dog or pass. I think it's Josh Emmett or nothing here. Plus 270 is a good number. You also can maybe sprinkle the knockout plus 500, but I'm not going to get too greedy here. I think Josh could get this victory. Yes, Murphy maybe outstrikes him over 25 minutes, but I think at this price, you got to go Josh Emmett plus 270. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Joanderson Brito minus 240 on the comeback here. We've got Pat Sabatini plus 200. Now you've got Brito here, who's an absolute powerhouse. This guy is a finisher, 17 victories, 15 by stoppage. He's got 7 knockouts, 8 submissions. I mean, this guy, when he's got the time or there's a moment there, he is going for that finish. And he's really the kind of person that, he wants to take care of business early as well. Most of his fights are ending in the first round, ending in the second round. And now the thing that can be an opportunity here for Pat Sabatini is if this fight gets extended, you've definitely seen Brito start to tick down when you talk about his explosiveness, his power. Those things start to go down because he throws everything with 100% power. He is going to go out there. He is going to just fire big shots. He is going to, not be economical at all with his cardio, with his gas tank, because he's looking to get that finish early. And it's great if it does finish early and he is able to connect or find that submission. But if fights go a little bit further, he starts to struggle. In the UFC, he's 5-2. Those two losses both came by decision. So you do see that that could be an opening for Sabatini. And Sabatini, high-level grappler, has incredible submission ability. He averages 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's a guy that, if he gets in the UFC, if he gets a takedown, he gets the victory. And I think that's something that he can work on here, where if he looks to really, weather that early storm from Brito, which is definitely going to be a massive storm, that first round. But I think as this fight starts to extend again, he's going to start to find some success, start to find opportunities. And I think that's where Sabatini can wear on him, work on him, push him up against the fence a little bit, get Brito working. If this fight hits the ground, I think Sabatini's high-level jiu-jitsu can absolutely get it done or bank the round. And that's really where I see this going. We're weathering that first round and starting to pick up the rounds or picking up opportunities to find that submission victory here. So I think Brito, who throws big power, but sometimes overthrows shots, I think that also could be a level-changing opportunity for Sabatini here. So I like Sabatini. I think this number is a little bit wide. I think plus 200 is a great price on this guy, and he is just absolutely lethal on the ground. Maybe a sprinkle on the submission, but I'm taking Pat Sabatini and that plus money. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Vanessa Demopoulos, minus 110 on the comeback here. It's Talita Alencar, minus 110. Now, this is another spot here where the line opened minus 150 for Demopoulos, and we have seen Alencar money come in consistently. Now, the one thing here is I think this is another overcorrection from the market. And, I talk about this here and there. It's kind of a situation where, you in other fights, you can see a guy that's a minus 250 and everyone's on him. He's a killer. He's a killer. And then, the guy loses that fight, and the recency bias of him losing that fight. Now, everybody thinks he's like the worst fighter. The market, wants to fade this guy now. And maybe the next fight is a better stylistic matchup, a better setup for him, whatever it may be, a step down in competition. And that's really where it can provide some opportunity here. And I think that, this recency bias that happens on that most recent fight is where you can find actual value in certain spots here. And I think this could possibly be one of them here, where you've got Demopoulos who, goes out there, loses by submission against Jacqueline Amorium, which was a fight where Demopoulos, was complaining to the ref about a glove grab. I guess Amorium was grabbing her glove, whatever it may be, ends up getting the submission loss, loses that fight. Now you have Vanessa, who just lost by submission, about to face a specialist in jiu-jitsu. And I think that's why this line is moving where it's moving. Now, you look at Alencar here, and she's just very one-dimensional. She's very new to MMA. She's got like 6-7 fights as a pro in MMA, and, really a one-trick pony. If she gets you down, she's high-level jiu-jitsu. There's no doubt about that. She definitely is an accomplished grappler, and there is that. But there's also some problems here where she doesn't really have the wrestling, I think, to get fights to the ground. I don't think that she's going to be as strong as Demopoulos. I think Demopoulos also will have the wrestling advantage as well, and I think that starts to really present problems here for Alencar. And then you also add in the layer that Alencar has definitely showed not good cardio. There's been spots where, end of first round, beginning of second round, she starts to tick down. You can tell that, the cardio is not there. There's even been fights where it hasn't been that active, a very low volume type of fight, and she still looks a little tired. So I think that you've got Demopoulos, who can weaponize her cardio, who will have that wrestling, who can probably push that kind of pace. And I think, again, if she's going to look to move forward, look to throw those big shots, I think she can start to slow down Alencar as this fight continues to go on here. And I think that's where Demopoulos can bank some rounds, look for takedowns, get some control time. You've got Alencar, who at times is going to want to play jiu-jitsu off of her back because she's looking for submissions. I think Demopoulos can, find success there. And even on the feet, Alencar, very stiff, not good striking at all. It's not that Demopoulos is some high-level striker, but I do think that she's better than Alencar in that spot. And now you add in the fact that this is going to be a pick-em price tag and we're getting a discount because the market has moved that number there. I do like Vanessa Demopoulos to get the job done here at minus 110. And the last one here we're going to talk about is going to be Victor Henry, minus 218 against Pedro Falcao, plus 180. Now you've got this line here, another situation where you've got Henry. He opened up around the minus 150 mark, and you have money consistently coming in on him. Now you've got Henry, where his big claim to fame is going to be beating Hani Barcelos. That's been his claim to fame. I feel like that's been on people's mind. Hey, what a great performance that was, right? That's on everybody's mind. What a great performance. He came in, UFC debut. He was a plus 300 dog, and he went out there and just outpaced Hani. He was able to push the pace, out volume him, outland him, and just really surprised everybody. I think he even surprised Barcelos really what he was able to do out there, and he gets the victory. Now, since that victory, he's 2-2-1. He beat Tony Gravely and Ronnie Yaya, who I'm not very high on either of these guys. And, then there's also, I think, the kind of overcorrection from Pedro's loss, where, Pedro loses to Victor Hugo. But also, you got to remember, this was a UFC debut on short notice, like days' notice, and against Victor Hugo, who was a very tough out. And I thought he had a great performance. I thought for a guy on short notice who didn't have his cardio prepared, had no game plan prepared, wasn't even prepared to fight that weekend, comes in days notice, still had a very tough fight, scrappy fight. And I think it was a good account of him going out there and finding that kind of success. And Henry is a guy who's going to want to, his main weapons is going to be, the volume, the pressure. He's going to look to push that pace a little bit. He's going to push that volume out. He lands 8 significant strikes per minute. But I also think at this particular point in his career, one, I'm really not that high on the guy. And two, he's 37. He's going to be 38 in May. This is start to be where you do see that decline start to happen. You do see that things start to tick down a little bit. And I think this is where someone like Pedro may find that success. And, Pedro's a guy that is a decent wrestler. He's got good grappling. He's a third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. I think he's got the cardio. I think that he's got the physicality. I think also, too, if this fight, gets into the clinch or looks for takedowns, I think that Falcao is going to have the opportunity to get those takedowns. I think that he does have good top control if he does get the fight to the ground. So I think in this spot here, it's a dog or pass spot here. I love talking plus money on this show, but it definitely is a plus money spot here. I think it's a dog or pass. I'm not big on Henry at all. And we're taking that plus money. Pedro Falcao plus 180. So there you have it for my plays for UFC Vegas 105. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. Again, have a 4-unit play up at plus money right now for clients, and we'll be adding to that. And looking forward to next weekend's big pay-per-view card. And with that being said, let's cash.